Jeffrey Epstein, a name that has become synonymous with scandal, abuse, and conspiracy. Epstein was a millionaire financier who, for years, cultivated relationships with the rich and powerful. His luxurious lifestyle and connections to influential figures led many to believe he was untouchable, but his true nature was far from glamorous. Epstein's story is full of intrigue and mystery, with questions still lingering about how he evaded justice for so long and who else may have been involved in his crimes. How did Epstein become so wealthy, and who were his powerful friends? Join us on a journey to uncover his shady past and the tangled web of allies that shielded him from the law. Let's unravel the mystery of how he got away with his terrible crimes for so long. Jeffrey Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953 in the Brooklyn borough of New York City. Epstein's father worked as a groundskeeper, while his mother was a school aide and homemaker. Jeffrey's early life was far from the scandal and controversy that would later define him. Born into a working-class Jewish family in Brooklyn, Epstein attended local schools before discovering his talent for music. He excelled at the piano and even attended the prestigious National Music Camp. Epstein was such a brilliant student that he skipped 2 grades and finished high school at the young age of 16. He went on to attend several colleges, including New York City University's Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences, but left without a degree. In 1974, he began his career as a physics and mathematics teacher at the Dalton School in Manhattan. He was hired despite lacking the necessary credentials, and there are suspicions that the headmaster at the time, Donald Barr, had a hand in his recruitment. Epstein's lack of credentials did not stop him from teaching at the school for 3 months after Barr's departure. There he met Alan Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns, whose kids were Dalton students. However, during this time, Epstein allegedly engaged in inappropriate behavior towards underage students. So eventually, he was fired from Dalton in 1976 for poor performance. But thanks to his connections to Greenberg, he secured a job at Bear Stearns. Jeffrey Epstein started his career in finance as a low-level assistant at Bear Stearns. He quickly rose through the ranks and became a skilled options trader, advising wealthy clients like Edgar Bronfman on tax strategies. By 1980, he had become a limited partner at the firm, but a year later he left the company. After leaving Bear Stearns in 1984, Jeffrey Epstein founded his financial consulting firm called Intercontinental Assets Group Incorporated, or IAG. He claimed to work as an intelligence agent, a claim that has never been proven. Moreover, Epstein's association with powerful businessmen and his travels overseas in the mid-1980s raised questions about the veracity of his claims. He worked at IAG, where he aided customers in recovering embezzled funds as well as embezzlers themselves. In 1987, Jeffrey Epstein began consulting for Tower Financial Corporation, which later turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. He was allegedly involved in the scheme, but left before it fell apart in 1993. In 1988, he established his own financial management company, J. Epstein & Company, with the goal of serving wealthy clients. He also became the financial advisor to Leslie Waxner, the CEO of L Brands and Victoria's Secret. Later, he moved the company to the U.S. Virgin Islands to avoid taxes. In the early 2000s, Epstein expanded his financial activities, including media financing and startup investing. He also created a non-profit foundation that donated millions to institutions such as Harvard University, but the source of his immense wealth is still a mystery. With his extravagant lifestyle and enormous riches and influence, Jeffrey Epstein had access to some of the most powerful individuals in the world. Former American President Bill Clinton, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey, attorney Alan Dershowitz, and even the reigning British monarch Prince Andrew were among his associates. However, behind closed doors, Epstein was engaging in horrific acts of sexual abuse and exploitation of young girls and women. He allegedly used his connections to provide underage girls and young women to his powerful friends for sexual purposes. He even installed surveillance systems in his properties to record their activities for potential blackmail purposes. Epstein was known to have installed concealed cameras throughout his properties, which included his homes in New York and Palm Beach, as well as his private island in the Virgin Islands. The cameras were allegedly used to record the sexual activities of his guests, particularly with underage girls. In addition, Epstein's longtime girlfriend and companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, reportedly told a friend that the entire island was wired for video and that Epstein was videotaping everyone as an insurance policy. During a police raid of Epstein's Palm Beach residence in 2006, 2 pinhole cameras were found hidden in his home. Maria Farmer, a former employee of Epstein, also reported seeing a media room in his New York mansion where individuals monitored the cameras throughout the house. She noted that the rooms were accessed through a hidden door and that the cameras recorded private moments, such as when individuals were using the toilets or laying in bed. Epstein allegedly lent young girls to his influential friends to ingratiate himself with them and to collect potential blackmail material. The Department of Justice reported that Epstein stored CDs in his safe at a New York mansion, which were labeled with the names of the girls he exploited. In 2018, during an off-the-record conversation, Epstein told the New York Times that he possessed sensitive information about powerful individuals, including their sexual preferences and drug habits. Epstein's criminal behavior involving underage girls had been going on for years before he was finally convicted. In 2005, a couple reported to the police in Florida that Epstein had sexually abused their 14-year-old daughter at his residence in Palm Beach. When police searched the property, they found pictures of young girls throughout the house. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Epstein was able to avoid federal charges that could have resulted in a life sentence. Instead, he received a mere 18-month prison sentence, during which he was allowed to leave the jail for 12 hours a day and 6 days a week to go to his office. But he was released on probation after just 13 months. Epstein's behavior was an open secret among those in his social circle. Columnist Michael Wolff recounted a conversation, which Epstein reportedly said, "What can I say? I like young girls." He might have believed it was a lighthearted remark, but it was a blatant display of his true nature. Epstein, despite all his money and connections, was a sexual predator who preyed on defenseless young women for selfish enrichment. Despite having been registered as a level 3 sex offender in New York since 2008, Epstein continued to own and manage his properties and assets. In December of 2010, Prince Andrew, the Queen's 3rd child, was pictured with Epstein in New York City's Central Park, which also caused controversy. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, alleged in 2019 that Prince Andrew had sexual relations with her when she was only 17 years old. The prince denied the allegations, and the situation caused significant controversy. Finally, in July of 2019, after returning from Paris on his private jet, Epstein was arrested and charged with multiple sex trafficking offenses. The prosecutors also aimed to seize his New York mansion, where some of the alleged criminal activities took place. Despite the charges brought against him, Epstein maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. Epstein requested to be released on bail, but the judge denied this request, and he remained in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, unable to leave until his trial. At his last court appearance, it was announced that Epstein would spend a year in prison, with a trial no earlier than the summer of 2020. Prosecutors said they wanted no delay in bringing the trial, and that it was in the public interest. But on July 23, 2019, Epstein was found with neck injuries in his jail cell, so he was placed on suicide watch. However, it did not prevent his death. Tragically, on August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein's life came to an abrupt end within the confines of his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. The circumstances surrounding his death were quite suspicious, as the guards reportedly were asleep while on duty, and the cameras monitoring his cell were not working. The New York City medical examiner declared that Epstein had committed suicide by hanging. However, this conclusion did not satisfy his family, who hired their own pathologist to conduct a second autopsy. According to the autopsy report, Epstein's hyoid bone was broken, which is more commonly seen in cases of homicidal strangulation. This evidence led the family's pathologist to conclude that Epstein was more likely murdered. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Epstein's death fueled conspiracy theories and raised questions about the U.S. prison system and the wealthy and influential people who may have been implicated in his crimes. Yet, despite Epstein's death, the case against him continued, and his victims continued to seek justice. In July 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite who was also Epstein's ex-girlfriend, was arrested by the FBI in New Hampshire. The charges against her included transporting minors with the intent of engaging in criminal sexual activity and perjury. In addition, prosecutors accused her of luring young girls, earning their trust, and then leading them into traps set up by her and Epstein. Despite her pleas of innocence, she was denied bail and remained in custody. This case has shed light on the long-standing issue of sexual exploitation of minors by powerful individuals, and has sparked an ongoing investigation in Epstein's circle of acquaintances. The trial is ongoing, and the outcome will hopefully provide justice for the victims and bring an end to the impunity of those who use their power and influence to harm others. Thank you for watching True Crime Prime. Kindly subscribe to our channel and remember to like, share, and comment.